Well, hello and welcome to the channel.
We've just spent 6 wonderful days in New York City.
And we have absolutely tried to fit in as much as we possibly could.
So if you want to see what adventures we got up to, stay tuned.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. 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 We are all looking for adventure.
We left New Orleans and boarded a JetBlue flight headed for New York. This was our first time visiting the Big Apple and we were super excited. We arrived at JFK Airport and caught a taxi to our hotel in Chelsea. The traffic was absolutely horrendous and apparently this is pretty typical of New York. We stayed at Hyatt Place in Chelsea, which was super convenient. So we're just on our way to the subway. We invested in a couple of these Metro cards, which have been really good once you figure out the subway at least. So we're staying on 24th Street and there's a subway entrance on 23rd, which is pretty convenient. To be honest, the subway at first was a little bit daunting, especially for a couple of people from Hervey Bay, where there's basically no public transport at all. Despite that, we were able to pick up the subway pretty quickly. And every time we caught a train, it was a little bit of an adventure. Sometimes we would get on, and the carriage would be pretty much vacant. We'd have it to ourselves. But other times, we were packed in like sardines, sometimes not even getting a seat. Now the subway would have to be the best place for people watching. Every time we saw something bizarre, we would have our little code saying, "Oh, I've got something in my eye," to let each other know. And every time we got off at a new station, we felt like pioneers, discovering what was at the top of those subway stairs. Another surprise in the subway were the buskers. We saw some really talented performers, and some of them drew a really large crowd. Watching the buskers was really entertaining. This guy was super popular, especially with the bums. They just loved dancing around and getting involved as he played. This guy could really shred on that guitar, and we stayed for at least a couple of songs. By far, the best way of getting around is on foot. We usually did over 20,000 steps every day, and we actually saw so much more than we would have if we were just catching public transport. From Christmas decorations and ice skating to massive ladder trucks being parked. It was pretty impressive to see the driver of this truck and the driver of the ladder park this massive vehicle. It also reminded us of that Seinfeld episode where Kramer was driving the ladder. So hello, it's day 3 here in New York, and at the moment we're on the High Line, which is an old raised train track that turned into a walkway. The High Line was a great concept and a fantastic use of a disused train line. It was definitely a popular place for people to walk and run. The High Line is considered a park and it stretches for around 2.5 kilometres down the west side of the city. The views were great and we saw so many interesting buildings. They had even left some of the old train tracks, just as an indication of what this area was used for originally. The High Line is definitely worth a visit. There were Christmas trees and Christmas decorations everywhere. The entire city was filled with a Christmas buzz, and we absolutely loved it. Just remember to bring a raincoat or an umbrella. We got caught on our first day and were super glad that we'd packed them.
When visiting New York, we thought it was important to see the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. Some people just see the memorial pools and skip the museum, but we were so glad that we saw both. When we first arrived, we were drawn to the memorial pools where the towers once stood. There were just so many names etched into the stone. This is also the site of the One World Trade Center, which dominates the New York skyline. The museum can get really busy, so it's important to pre-purchase your tickets. There are a number of optional presentations offered at the museum's theatre. These really set the scene for your visit. Another option is the audio tour at a cost of $10. This is narrated by Robert De Niro and is exceptionally well done. It is definitely worth the money. You are prompted to play the audio as you visit each exhibit. Here we are visiting one of the original foundation walls, which survived the building collapse and prevented the area from flooding. There are numerous before and after pictures, as well as artefacts from the buildings, such as some of the structural steel beams. It was amazing to see the only surviving staircase that provided an escape for so many. There are many exhibits, including the remnants of ladder trucks and the symbolic last pillar. There are a number of artworks that represent the tragedy in various ways. However, the most moving exhibits are not able to be filmed. These are the human stories. These include the phone message recordings of the rescuers and the victims in both the planes and the buildings. These exhibits were presented in such an appropriate and sensitive way. On leaving the museum and visiting the memorial pools again, we felt they had even more significance. Visiting the 9/11 Memorial and Museum truly reflected the power of the human spirit. Although our visit was sombre, seeing all of the light-hearted sculptures on our way back to the subway really lifted our mood. And the building that housed the subway was spectacular.
Sharon had heard that Los Tacos was the best place for Mexican, and she was right. Their tacos were absolutely sensational. It's no wonder this place has a line out the door every day. On our first night, we decided we had to try some New York pizza. So we went to a local joint and ordered a small pizza. This thing was huge. It didn't even fit on our table, but it was mouth-wateringly good. Our tour around Staten Island is about half an hour, so we decided to get something to eat. So we're going to try a Philly cheesesteak. We just picked this up from the delis that is on the way. There's loads of delis everywhere. So we got the hero version, which is basically just a sandwich. Basically a steak, onions, capsicum, cheese. Can't complain, should be good. Also put this orange drink. Might be an energy drink now that I look at it. It's organic in India. Might be hyped up after that. There we go. Cheers.
Cheers.
Now you can't visit New York without going to Cat's Deli. This place is famous and it literally has a line going all the way down the street. We met a lady who used to be a local, and she said originally you could get one of their famous pastrami sandwiches for just $5. Nowadays, they hit you up for $28. That's US dollars, by the way. But that didn't deter us, and we were still keen to give one a try. They have 8 different cutters. That's who they call the people that carve the meat and make the sandwiches. They pull a freshly roasted pastrami straight out of the oven and start carving it in front of you. They even give you a little taste test of the meat, just like I do if I'm making a roast for the kids. We had our sandwich with lashings of mustard, beautiful grilled cheese and some coleslaw, and it was absolutely delicious. Sharon and I shared a sandwich, and that was more than enough for each of us. Kat's Deli is also famous for the movie When Harry Met Sally. That's the one where Meg Ryan fakes an orgasm and then other customers in the store say, "I'll have what she's having." I tried my best, but I couldn't convince Sharon to reenact the scene. Regardless, the visit to Kat's Deli was superb. We got some Taco Bell and brought it back to have with a couple of beers, and we have some leftovers, so we decided we'll eat these for dinner. Trouble is, in this unit, there's not much, there's a coffee maker. And so cold burritos, we don't like them that much, so best thing to do, we've got some foil, and we're just going to iron them. So this is called ironing yourself some dinner. Actually heats them up really nicely and crispens them up. Takes a while. It's slower than the microwave, but better than cold burritos. Cheers.
We decided to do a city highlights tour with Circle Line cruises. These ferries depart regularly for the hour-long tour. As always, the best views are from the open-aired top deck. Just make sure you pick a fine day. There was an engaging guide with a wealth of information about the city. The cruise takes you down the Hudson River towards Staten Island and the Statue of Liberty. On the way, you pass sites such as Jersey City and Ellis Island. Ellis Island being the former immigration centre for the country. Unlike the Staten Island ferry, Circle Line doesn't allow you to disembark at the statue. The Statue of Liberty looks spectacular in the sunlight. If you're not sure what the statue looks like, here it is. The cruise then takes you back towards Lower Manhattan. You cruise past downtown Brooklyn before passing under the first of 3 bridges. The cruise takes you under the Brooklyn Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge and the Williamsburg Bridge. All the while providing spectacular views of the city skyline. You're gifted with an amazing view of the Empire State Building before the boat turns around and retraces its steps. There is the busiest helipad we have ever seen down in Lower Manhattan. It doesn't matter where you sit on the boat. From every vantage point, you will have spectacular views.
If you're enjoying our videos, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and get notified so you find out where we're off to next.
On the return journey, we were intrigued by this landmark known as Little Island. We loved our cruise on Circle Line. It gave us a totally different perspective of New York City.
Despite having lots of things booked ready for our trip to New York, we did keep a couple of days free. And on one of those days, at the suggestion of a friend, we decided to go and visit the Intrepid. The ship was integral in World War II, especially the war in the Pacific against the Japanese. Its service spanned all the way through to the Vietnam War. The ship is now a military museum, docked permanently in New York City. When touring the Intrepid, you start in the main hangar. Housed here are many aircraft and other paraphernalia from the ship's service. There is a wealth of information about the ship's history, together with an interactive demonstration that utilises light, sound and smoke to recreate a kamikaze attack that kills 65 sailors. Up on the flight deck, they've built a massive hangar, and this is where they store the Space Shuttle Enterprise. It was fantastic to see a shuttle up close. These things are much bigger than we expected. On the other hand, as we explored the variety of aircraft that was out on the actual flight deck, we were surprised. A lot of these planes were much smaller than we thought they would be. Sharon was excited to see the F-14 Tomcat, but unfortunately there was no sign of Tomcat himself. She really is a Tom Cruise fan. Although we're not military buffs, we definitely found it interesting to explore the ship. We were able to explore the control tower and bridge, and there were staff on hand to answer questions, most of whom were ex-military. We could also explore below decks, investigating the sleeping quarters and mess. All in all, the Intrepid was very interesting. Tied up alongside the Intrepid is the submarine Growler. This is the only American nuclear-powered submarine open to the public. We were definitely keen to go and explore this vessel as well, although you do have to be pretty flexible to fit through some of the fairly small doorways. Again, they had staff on hand to answer any questions and point out some interesting features. If you're visiting New York and you have 2 or 3 hours spare, definitely consider a visit to the Intrepid. It's well worth it. So good morning. Yes, we're on. We're live. Sharon's probably distracted looking for squirrels again.
No, that's later in Central Park.
Anyway, today's day 5 of our New York City adventure, and today, being a couple of nerds, we're going to spend the morning at the Natural History Museum, which should be pretty good. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, or their bones at least.
Yeah, probably.
We're not too sure what we'll do for the rest of the day, but this is where we're going to start.
Look for squirrels?
Look for squirrels? That's always something you can do.
Yes. The main entry to this beautiful building is from the Central Park side. The museum is extremely popular and you are required to book an entry time. You can't just walk in off the street. We arrived a little early, but by the time the museum opened, the entry line wrapped right around the block. There are optional exhibits available, and we chose to do the exhibit on the blue whale. We then started to explore the 4 floors of the museum. The biodiversity exhibit had thousands of specimens. The natural history exhibits are coordinated in regions and include the oceans, North America, Asia, and Africa. Although we prefer to see animals in the wild, we were amazed at the quality of these displays. Each and every one was incredibly realistic. It was almost as if we were seeing these creatures frozen in time in their natural habitat. We quickly lost track of time, being captivated by each and every display. As we moved from area to area, we were amazed by some of the interesting architecture. The curators had an exceptional ability to capture so many different natural poses. The museum offers an intuitive app. It will guide you from exhibit to exhibit based on your interest. The app had great maps to help navigate the museum, tracking your position in real time. We really enjoyed the dioramas. They captured the diversity of each of the regions. Each zone also had many cultural artefacts. There were also mannequins on display representing a range of cultures. The top floor was dedicated to dinosaurs. This was the floor that I liked the best. It was full of our favourites like T-Rex and Triceratops. As we explored each of the floors, we felt like we were on the set of Night at the Museum. We were amazed at the enormous size of the Titanosaur. There was every size, shape and type of dinosaur on display.
We spent the better part of the day actually at the museum. It was pretty awesome. Probably could spend an hour on every floor. There's 4 floors. At least that's probably what we did. And we still didn't see everything. It was pretty awesome. Now we're in Central Park, having a bit of a wander, and of course...
Looking for squirrels. There was some back there.
It's hard to keep Sharon's attention. I keep losing her.
It's so
like
cute.
One of those dogs that sees a squirrel and runs off. It's out of control. Anyhow, we're wandering by the lake at the moment. No boats out there at the moment. It's a bit too cold during winter. Yeah, often people go paddling out there.
Probably not as it's about to get dark though.
Yeah, probably not in winter.
No.
We noticed ice ladders dotted around, so it must freeze over from time to time.
I guess so.
Anyhow, we'll keep walking. We'll see if we can find
Squirrels.
some squirrels, of course.
And we definitely did see lots of squirrels in our time in Central Park. Now these were definitely not a novelty for New Yorkers, but for a couple of Aussies, we found them fascinating. Wherever we looked, there was a squirrel scurrying through the leaves, looking for food to stockpile for winter. We had stopped in New York for a day as part of our cruise, and on that day, we visited Central Park and did a scooter tour. It was a lot of fun, and a great way to fill the day. Our guide Philippe led us to many of the key locations around Central Park. We were truly amazed at just how vast Central Park is. It's really quite spectacular to have such a huge green space in the centre of a big city like New York. The Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir was absolutely huge and smack bang in the middle of the park. The main road that led you on a circuit throughout the park was divided into various lanes. One for walkers, one for bikes and scooters and wheeled vehicles, and another one for cars and carriages. All 3 lanes were one way only. One of the interesting stops along the scooter tour was Strawberry Fields. This iconic place was right next to the building where John Lennon and Yoko Ono had once lived. This is the same building where John Lennon was murdered back in 1980. As a result, it's a popular place with tourists. We actually visited here a couple of times, and every time there was a busker reminiscing with John Lennon's music. If your time is limited, then hiring a scooter is definitely a great way to visit and see Central Park.
So we've decided to take a load off here at Bethesda Terraces in the massive big fountain here, which is very famous here in Central Park. Quite a few movies were shot here. Sharon's been doing some research. What movies were shot here?
The Avengers, Home Alone 2, One Fine Day with George Clooney, Enchanted. Yeah, just to name a few.
A little bit crowded today, otherwise we would have reenacted all of those scenes for you. But yeah, we'll just get in everyone's way. They're trying to take photos.
It'll be famous now because Nick and Sharon's
epic holiday adventures have been filmed here.
Oh yeah, The Great Escape.
Yeah.
Also filmed here at Bethesda Terraces. We took some time to visit Belvedere Castle. This iconic miniature castle is located atop a huge rock outcrop known as Vista Rock, and it's the second highest natural point in Central Park. You can climb the narrow staircase to the top floor. This is a great place to take in the views and take a few selfies. It truly is quite magical wandering through the park. There are so many beautiful places to see. So we've made our way here to Bow Bridge.
Or Bow.
Yeah, I think it's Bow.
Okay.
Quite picturesque, and that's where they do a lot of wedding photos. So what's the plan for tomorrow, boss?
Tomorrow we are going to the top of the Empire State Building in the morning. We're going to then go downtown and do the Brooklyn Bridge. You're going to go looking for Kratz's Deli.
Cat's Deli. Yeah.
Cat's Deli. I want to go back to Bryant Park Christmas markets.
Yeah, we might do the markets tonight, maybe.
Okay. And the New York Public Library is beside there.
What? What are we going to the library for?
Because it's a landmark.
Okay, so we're going to the library.
It's next door to Bryant Park.
Okay, yeah, that'll be fun.
Old building.
Can't wait for the library. We'll read some books. That should be good. Being our first time in New York, we wanted to see as many of the sights as we could, and we started with the top of the Rock, visiting the top of the Rockefeller Center. After an interesting elevator ride, we made our way to the observation deck and exceptional views of the city. There were spectacular views both to the north and the south. We realised there was an actual observation deck another level up, this one providing unobstructed views. It was a little colder up here, but the views were that much better, it was worth it. The city looks so different from this perspective. It pays to be organised to do Top of the Rock, as the queues are lengthy, so book your tickets early. Next on our list was the Empire State Building, with New Yorkers claiming this is the most famous building in the entire world. They may be right. The Empire State Building has a much more interesting and engaging exhibition hall on your way to the elevator. From simulations of the building's construction, including realistic videos and bronze statues, to a compilation of all the Hollywood greats that have used this iconic landmark. There are plenty of opportunities for selfies, including the impressive King Kong. The elevators also have a ceiling of screens that simulates the construction of this mighty building. Once again, we were met by spectacular views as we emerged onto the observation deck. No glass here, just a wire cage. It didn't matter whether we were looking north, south, east or west. We were definitely impressed. The camera even gave a great perspective looking straight down. There are loads of possibilities for the avid photographer, and they even have heaters to keep you warm. The Empire State Building is definitely worth a visit. Now Sharon definitely got her way, and we did go to see the public library. It was actually a pretty good place to visit, but don't let her know I said that. We explored lots of different areas, but we avoided interrupting the serious researchers. We were also reminded of the Day After Tomorrow movie, where this library featured heavily. It was definitely good to tick this one off the list. Next up was Grand Central Station. With its iconic clock at the information booth in the centre, this was definitely a busy place. It was the ideal location for a time lapse, as well as a place to catch the subway down to Cat's Deli. After we'd visited Cat's Deli, we decided to walk down to the Brooklyn Bridge, passing through Chinatown and right past the law courts. Being an avid Law and Order fan, Sharon enjoyed seeing the steps to this building. Sharon had heard that the Brooklyn Bridge was the place to buy souvenirs, and on arriving we saw that that information was quite correct. From your classic souvenirs to custom artwork, everything seemed to be available here on the bridge. We joined lots of other people and took a stroll along the walkway. The Brooklyn Bridge provided an awesome backdrop for photos, with the steel wire cables and the neo-Gothic stone towers, giving opportunities for lots of different perspectives. With the New York traffic busy below us and the sun setting over Lower Manhattan, this was the perfect place to end our day of sightseeing. So here are the final couple of highlights for our video. We went to see the famous Rockettes performing their Christmas spectacular, and it was definitely a night of festive fun. The theatre was massive, and so was the cast. Now, I'm not too sure what the regular Rockette show is like, but the Christmas Spectacular is definitely worth seeing.
Alright, so last night we went to Wicked. It was wicked.
It was great.
It was so good.
Really good.
Didn't really know the story at all, but at least Sharon knew it was a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. But we both loved it. The quality of everything was just amazing. The actors, the singing, the costumes,
The story.
the set, yeah, it was just amazing. So it was a pretty good choice for a Broadway show to go to.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it.
On our first night in New York, we were drawn to the numerous digital billboards of Times Square. This popular tourist destination is the hub of the Broadway Theatre District and a major centre for the world's entertainment industry. A trip to New York just wouldn't be complete without a visit to Times Square. We returned on our last night to find out where everyone was getting these big M&M bags from. It didn't take us long to find the 3 floors of the massive M&M store. This place was a chocolate lover's heaven.
So when we first got here to New York, this was the first place we came, Times Square. So it's probably fitting actually that to say goodbye, we're back here in Times Square. We've had an absolute ball here in New York, done loads of different things, it's been magical, and really hope that you've enjoyed the video.
Remember, you too can escape the everyday, and we'll see you next time from Quebec. Be sure to stay tuned.
Bye for now.